What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Talk with Mr. Ghost. Before we get into today's episode, do me a quick favor, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and make sure you guys are liking and sharing these episodes, because remember, the more you engage is the more that this message reaches people who truly care about truth, law, and constitutional accountability. So with what's happening in our country today, let's take a biblical lens. Let's turn to the book of Titus, chapter 3, verses 1 through 2. We are being told by the Apostle Paul, put them in mind to be subject to the principalities and powers, to speak evil to no man, showing all meekness unto all man. The Apostle Paul is instructing Titus to remind believers in Crete to respect governing authorities, to be obedient to the law, ready for good works, and to conduct themselves with peace, gentleness, and humility towards all people, even while living in a culture known for rebellion, disorder, and hostility towards those values. Now, why does this matter to today? Well, because America is facing its own experience with division, distrust, and reckless rhetoric. And listen, Scripture reminds us that reform doesn't begin with chaos, it begins with character. Disagreeing with leadership does not justify undermining the institutions, inflaming fear, or turning disorder into a virtue. So Paul's message is a warning for our time. A society is strengthened not by outrage, but by the restraint, truth, and responsibility. And even in difficult seasons, that can be true. So today's topic isn't about left versus right. This is about a reality versus the rhetoric, and whether fear is being used to manipulate the American people. See, what we're hearing is some extreme claims right now. Claims that America is turning into a country where papers and checkpoints and mass detentions of its own citizens and political retribution. We're told that ICE is running rogue. The military is being deployed to intimidate Minnesota residents. That peaceful protest is under attack. And that America is becoming something unrecognizable. And these claims are emotional. They are dramatic. But the question is this: are they accurate? Because words like retribution, checkpoints, and papers, please, aren't just language. They are historical triggers. And when leaders use those, and especially when they use those irresponsibly, they inflame fear instead of informing the public. So tonight, let's slow it down. Talk the facts and not our feelings. I'll tell you guys once again, to those on the left, I am not the feelings police. I don't care about your feelings. You're going to get the truth. And if you want to cry about it, you have my shoulder to cry on. I still love you. I still care about you. May God be with you. Roll the tape.
For our colleagues on the other side of the aisle to be okay for the president to carry out retribution here in Minnesota. It is appalling for our Republican colleagues to be okay for there to be cell detentions in ICE for American citizens. It is appalling for them to be okay, for there to be checkpoints in American cities where people are asked for their papers. And it is appalling for Americans to have to carry their citizen papers only to be told they are not sure if those papers are correct. I don't want to curse, but those of us who escaped places like that, the one place where we thought we would never experience this, is the U.S. Garden States. And we should all be ashamed that it is the United States that is allowing for this to take place, and it is being forecasted and broadcasted to the rest of the world, where people are calling and saying, are you sure? This is America. I am ashamed. And we must do everything that we can to bring back the America we all escaped.
All right, guys, let's talk about Ilhan Omar's words about America, because words from an elected official matter, especially when they shape how the world views this country. So when Representative Omar describes the United States as a place comparable to regimes that people escape from, or even suggests that America is becoming a nation of checkpoints, papers, and political retribution, that's not criticism. That is delegitimization. And criticism of our government's policies is American. We're allowed to do that. But when you are comparing the United States to authoritarian states while serving in Congress, well, that's something else. See, our country is not perfect. We're far from it. We're still a young nation. But we're definitely not no dictatorship, thank God. We do got courts that will block executive overreach. We have judges issuing injunctions against federal agencies if they have overreach. Well, we used to have media that would freely criticize the government on both sides. We don't see that much anymore. So she might be right on that aspect. But we do have elected officials who are openly condemning the federal action without fear of imprisonment. See, none of that exists in regimes that she's invoking. And here's the irony about this entire situation. That very system that she claims is collapsing into tyranny is the same exact system that elected her, that protects her free speech, amplifies her voice, and allows her to challenge our government publicly without no retribution. That is not authoritarianism. That is a republic constitutional democracy. And that's exactly what the United States is. For the people, by the people. So Omar, you work for us. So when you tell the world that America should be ashamed, you don't get to criticize policy. You undermine the national credibility, demoralize its citizens, and fuel misinformation abroad. Listen, you can oppose ICE policy. You can even challenge federal enforcement. You can advocate for reform. But when the rhetoric crosses into portraying America as fundamentally illegitimate, listen, that's no longer reform. You're doing what exactly we've been complaining about, narrative warfare, and undermining our country. And listen, the American people deserve to ask a fair question. Are we debating policy, or are we being conditioned to distrust our own country? Because strong nations fix their problems. They don't convince their citizens that the nation itself is the enemy. And that distinction matters. And it matters more now than ever. So let's touch this narrative that she's talking about. It involves ICE. They're claiming ICE are detaining American citizens en masse. Now, when you go look at it, there's no evidence of such policy targeting U.S. citizens for detention. ICE operations are under federal immigration law. An unlawful detention of any U.S. citizen without probable cause would be illegal, plain and simple. And if that happens, the officer can be arrested. He can be charged. And that's just straight out period about that. Kidnapping. But if you interfere with their job, you can be detained and charged. And listen, that's not unlawful detention. That's a consequence of your stupidity, of your reckless actions. And they have consequences. Now let's talk about the military presence that people are talking about. What is actually happening is called preparedness, not occupation. Listen, the National Guard and the Pentagon readiness does not equal martial law. I think we need it, but that's my own personal opinion. I've seen this there in riots, natural disasters, and large-scale civil unrest, both under Republican and Democratic administrations. But here we got makeup Jacob Frey, who literally loves Somalia so much that he is a disgrace to his own city. He's telling everybody that this is intimidation. But law enforcement says it's preventing chaos. especially after ICE-related shootings and the escalating protests around it. See, here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of these protesters that we're seeing are peaceful. They're out there just having their voices heard. But we got a lot of protesters that are not very peaceful. We have officers being assaulted. We have vehicles being used as weapons, and we witnessed that, and it cost Renee Good her life. We've seen people bringing guns into this. The rhetoric has gotten to a point of insurrection. We've seen spitting, shoving, and property destruction. And here's where it gets dangerous. When courts are issuing these rulings that protect peaceful protests, but blur the line between lawful demonstration and obstruction. Yes, Americans have the First Amendment right to protest. They do not have the right to interfere with federal law enforcement. See, a judge ruling that ICE cannot detain or use crowd control tools against non-obstructing protesters makes sense on paper. But there are critics such as myself who are going to ask this. Who defines obstruction in real time? Is it a judge, or is it the law enforcement on the ground? Or is it the public officials? I mean, if that's the case, we're kind of screwed. And listen, who protects the officers when the crowd turns hostile? This is not micromanagement. That is legitimate concern. See, that's the legitimate concern about this whole situation. Man, I had a word salad. But this is not a micromanagement situation. This is very fluent and it's changing. We got people being encouraged to bring weapons to go against ICE. We got people who are calling to shoot ICE officers. If that's not insurrection, I don't know what is. And finally, let's address the biggest myth of all. That enforcing immigration law equals tyranny. That one I laugh at. But America is not a papers country. We are a nation of laws. Every country enforces its borders. Go to Poland and see what happens. You'll find out very quickly. But every country verifies identity. That does not make us fascists. It makes us functional and operational. Now listen, I will admit that our immigration system is broken. I'm not sure if I'm the only one that sees that. I don't think I am. I think a lot of people see what I see as a broken immigration system. But weaponizing the fear by comparing America to authoritarian regimes is reckless. And it insults the people who actually fled from real tyranny. And listen, it's a slap in the face to every American that has served and died for this country. And listen, Omar needs to be impeached. She needs to be removed from office. She don't care about this country at all. Okay? She don't. She cares about her people only. And I've seen enough where I could righteously judge that. But Scripture warns us about leaders who are misdiagnosing the problem. So when calling America authoritarian doesn't heal division, it deepens it by replacing the truth with exaggeration. And here's my challenge to you guys. Before repeating headlines, verify them. Before you start accepting outrage, ask yourself, who benefits from it? Before calling law enforcement Nazis or Casapos or that America is a dictatorship, look at the facts, not the footage cut for clicks. We can protect civil liberties and enforce the law at the same time. We can support personal protests and hold violent agitators accountable. Those ideas are not opposites, they're constitutional. So drop a comment below. And listen, do you believe fear is being used as a political weapon right now? I want to hear from you guys. Where do you draw the line when protest and obstruction? Where do you draw that line between those two, guys? This is Real Talk with Mr. Ghost. We deal in facts, not panic, not feelings. I'm not the feelings police, but I'll see you all in the next one.